Hey, yo, good morning, Mo. You're locked into Nap Time News, the early edition, because nothing says rise and shine like a rapid-fire reality check before your coffee even knows what's happening. We've got the top 10 U.S. stories, 7 global headlines, and a weather rundown so you can pretend you're prepared for the day. No fluff, no fake hype, just the news, quick and dirty so you can get back to doom scrolling or hitting snooze. Let's get this chaos started before your boss figures out you're awake.
We kick it off with sports. In the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers took on the Memphis Grizzlies and snagged a win. The final score: Lakers 120, Grizzlies 114. Luka Doncic dropped 36 points to help the Lakers rally late and close it out. On the college football side, River Falls knocked off North Central in the Amos Alonzo Stagg Bowl, taking the championship 24-14. Big news for college-bound students this week. U.S. News just released its 2026 Best Colleges rankings. Princeton University takes the crown again as the top national university, with MIT and Harvard right behind. Williams College keeps its #1 spot among national liberal arts colleges, followed by Amherst and the U.S. Naval Academy. If you're on the college hunt, now's the time to see who's climbed, who's dropped, and maybe update that dream school list. Chief Justice John Roberts just released his 2025 year-end report on the federal judiciary. You won't find any wild scandals, but there's plenty to chew on. And if you care about how justice actually works in America, Roberts spotlights the growing role of technology in the courts, from remote hearings, digital filings, and cybersecurity, basically. The judiciary's been forced to modernize, and fast. He also calls out the challenge of heavy caseloads and judicial vacancies, warning that delays in confirming judges are slowing down the whole system. And, in classic Roberts fashion, he makes a big push for public trust and judicial independence, urging everyone, Congress included, not to undermine the court's credibility just because they don't like a decision. Honestly, to me it's a sobering but necessary reminder that the legal system isn't immune to the same pressures hitting the rest of the country: tech disruptions, staffing shortages, and political heat. Roberts is basically waving a flag. If we want fair courts, we've got to invest in them and respect their independence. It's not a headline grabber, but it's the kind of message that matters way more in the long run than any courtroom drama. For the full report, check out the official release at uscourts.gov. It's a big shakeup in the tech world. TikTok has officially signed a deal to spin off its U.S. operations into a new joint venture, with major American investors like Oracle and Silver Lake stepping in. The move, backed by President Trump, comes after a new law forced TikTok's Chinese parent ByteDance to divest most of its U.S. stake or face a total ban. The new venture will retrain TikTok's algorithm on U.S. user data and put Oracle in charge of data storage, with content moderation handled stateside. But here's the catch: the deal isn't done until it gets the green light from both U.S. and Chinese regulators, and Beijing hasn't officially weighed in yet. Here's where I'm concerned. With all eyes on Venezuela and the U.S. flexing its muscles abroad, tensions are running high between Washington, Beijing, and other global players. Well, if the situation in Venezuela escalates, it could easily spill over into these tech negotiations, especially since China's approval is still up in the air. So, while TikTok fans can breathe easy for now, don't be surprised if this deal hits turbulence. Tech and geopolitics are more tangled than ever, and what happens next in Venezuela could absolutely impact whether TikTok stays on American phones. Healthcare's in the hot seat this week. Those beefed-up Obamacare, ACA, subsidies. You know, the ones that helped millions keep their insurance. Well, it just expired, and now premiums are shooting up for a lot of families. Congress is under major pressure to renew the subsidies. But here's the kicker. There's a looming government shutdown hanging over everything. According to thehill.com, the House is locked in a standoff, and if the government shuts down, it could stall or totally derail any last-minute deals to bring those subsidies back. That means more people could lose coverage, and states are scrambling to prep for the fallout. Honestly, the timing couldn't be worse. With the shutdown threat, the usual DC gridlock is turning a healthcare problem into a potential crisis. If you're stressed about your health plan or your wallet, you're definitely not alone. And unless Congress gets its act together fast, things could get rocky for a lot of Americans. Travel just got a lot more complicated. President Trump's new travel ban is officially in effect. This is targeting travelers from 20 countries with strict new entry restrictions. The Trump administration says it's all about national security, but the move is already shaking up the travel industry. Airlines are scrambling to rebook or refund thousands of travelers. International tourism groups are already sounding the alarm about lost revenue and canceled trips. According to Travel Pulse, the ban is causing major confusion at airports, with travelers facing sudden changes and last-minute detours. And it's not just the U.S. tightening up. Yahoo Finance reports that other countries are now making their own calls to cancel flights and restrict entry, citing safety and political tensions. Businesses that rely on international travel are bracing for more cancellations, and travelers are left in limbo, waiting for the next update, or hoping for last-minute policy changes. Honestly, with all the global uncertainty right now, these new travel bans could ripple out even further, hurting families, businesses, and the broader economy. If you've got travel plans, keep your phone close and check those updates, because the rules are changing by the hour. It's been a blockbuster week at the White House. President Trump has packed the schedule with back-to-back press briefings, with all eyes glued to the latest on Venezuela. After announcing that U.S. forces captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, President Trump went live for a nationally televised news conference, laying out his administration's case for the operation and promising to keep the pressure on Maduro's allies. If you caught it, you saw Trump double down on his stance, warning Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez that, if she doesn't do what's right, she'll pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. The move has Washington buzzing. Republicans are mostly rallying behind Trump, calling it a bold stand for democracy, while Democrats are slamming the action as reckless and risky, pointing to the potential fallout for U.S.-Latin American relations and global security. International reaction is just as split, with the BBC reporting that the UN has called an emergency session and world leaders are scrambling to respond. Bottom line, the White House is center stage, and with new briefings and statements coming out almost daily, the world is watching for the next move. If you're following this story, keep your popcorn handy. It's not slowing down anytime soon. Wall Street's been on a wild ride since the U.S. strike in Venezuela. According to Bloomberg, oil prices shot up fast. No surprise, given the uncertainty around Venezuela's massive crude reserves. Defense stocks are rallying, with investors betting on more government contracts and global tension. Meanwhile, the rest of the market is all over the place. Tech and consumer shares are swinging, bonds are jittery, and futures are bouncing up and down as traders try to figure out what's next. Yahoo Finance reports that the volatility is hitting retirement accounts and portfolios everywhere, so if you're tempted to check your 401k first thing this afternoon, maybe wait until after dinner. The only thing certain right now, more twists ahead as investors watch for the next move out of D.C. and Caracas. The rhetoric is heating up between Washington and Caracas. President Trump just put Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, squarely in the spotlight, publicly warning that if she doesn't do what's right, the consequences will be probably bigger than Maduro's. Rodriguez, for her part, is keeping a poker face, hinting at possible talks but insisting she's the only legitimate leader and brushing off outside pressure. Meanwhile, the world is watching this diplomatic showdown. China is urging the U.S. to back off and release Maduro, while other countries are weighing in on both sides. On the ground, Caracas is tense, with people wondering who's really in charge. The war of words isn't just about headlines, it's shaping the next phase of Venezuela's crisis, and the stakes are getting higher by the hour. Stay tuned. This story's got more chapters to come. Well, if you have been under a rock, you missed the U.S.-made international headlines. Again. In a midnight special ops maneuver straight out of a Hollywood script, American forces captured Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. This wasn't a seat-of-the-pants job. The operation was meticulously planned, with U.S. intelligence tailing Maduro's every move. Even his own inner circle was totally blindsided. The White House is spinning this as a heroic effort to restore order and bring democracy back to Venezuela, because that's always how these things go, right? Meanwhile, the real chaos is just heating up. The Venezuelan military is scrambling. There's a power vacuum the size of Texas, and nobody's quite sure who's actually running the show. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez is suddenly in the world's hottest seat, and let's just say the transition of power is looking about as smooth as a gravel road. And let's not kid ourselves, oil is the elephant in the room. With Venezuela's massive reserves, markets are already reacting. Oil prices are jumping, and energy execs are paying very close attention to who ends up holding the keys in Caracas. Bottom line, the US pulled off the headline, but the fallout, political, economic, and yes, oil, is just beginning. Stay tuned because this saga is nowhere near its final act. All right, that's what's poppin' in the US, but let's be real. It's a big planet and there's a lot more going down. Let's zoom out and peep what's making noise around the globe. It's January, and the global sports calendar is already flexing. The Australian Open is kicking off down under, with tennis stars sweating it out for the first Grand Slam of the year. Over in Morocco, the Africa Cup of Nations is lighting up the soccer world. No shortage of drama, upsets, and last-minute goals. Cricket fans? The T20 World Cup is making headlines, with teams gearing up for qualifiers and a few surprise roster changes shaking up the predictions. And if you're into basketball, the NBA is deep into mid-season chaos. Trade rumors are everywhere, and the standings are about as stable as a folding chair at a family reunion. Bottom line, whether you're a tennis diehard, a football fanatic, or just here for the highlight reels, January 2026 is serving up the action. Stay tuned. This year's just getting started. Mother Nature is not here to play in 2026. Wild winter storms are blasting across the US and Europe, with record snow and power outages from Boston to Berlin. Airlines are scrambling to keep up. Commuters are basically living on caffeine and hope. Social feeds are full of everything from epic snowball fights to, why is my car an ice sculpture? Meanwhile, scientists are sounding the alarm on climate extremes, warning this wild weather could be the new normal if global warming keeps ramping up. So, if you're tired of shoveling or waiting for your flight, just know, you're not alone, and it might be time to invest in some heavy-duty boots. Just ask the folks in Fulton, New York. AI is stealing the spotlight at Davos this year. Everyone from CEOs to world leaders is buzzing about how artificial intelligence is going to shake up 2026. The big questions? How to keep AI safe? Who's setting the rules? And whether anyone can actually keep up with the pace of change. Spoiler alert. Most folks are just trying to look like they're not panicking. Meanwhile, Europe's rolling out even tougher privacy regulations. So brace yourself for a new wave of accept cookies pop-ups, all while companies scrambling to figure out how to advertise without being totally creepy. The message out of Davos: tech is moving fast, but the rules are about to get a whole lot stricter. Ukraine's war is anything but quiet. Ceasefire talks are stalled, and Kiev's ramping up drone attacks on Russian targets, with Moscow claiming fresh strikes near the capital. On the flip side, Russia's still shelling Ukrainian cities, so any talk of peace is basically just that. Talk. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, Syria's skies are buzzing with drone drama, keeping everyone on edge and headlines rolling in. Bottom line, if you're looking for a news lull, you won't find it here. These hot zones just keep heating up. The tension's ratcheting up between Washington and Tehran, again. President Trump is dropping not-so-subtle hints about possible U.S. intervention as protests spread across Iran. Meanwhile, Tehran's leadership is firing right back, blaming the U.S. for stoking unrest and warning against any outside meddling. It's the same old diplomatic dance. Threats, accusations, and headlines that just keep getting bolder. If you've got déjà vu, you're not alone. This back and forth is practically a tradition at this point. It's getting tense in the Asia-Pacific. China's ramping up the pressure again, sending more military flights near Taiwan and running large-scale drills that have everyone watching nervously. North Korea's back in the headlines too, firing off missiles and calling it defense drills, as usual. Meanwhile, South Korea's President Lee just made a high-profile trip to China, hoping to dial down the drama. But let's be real. Nerves are frayed all around. The UN just smashed the panic button, calling an emergency Security Council session after the U.S. military's bold move to capture Venezuela's Maduro. The read in the room? Total chaos. Some countries are furious, accusing the U.S. of overstepping, while others are practically handing out high fives for restoring order. Diplomats are trading barbs, alliances are shifting, and if you're looking for consensus, good luck. Bottom line, it's a diplomatic mess, and the world's watching to see what fallout lands next. Okay, this is Naptime News, Weather Blitz, the Why Do We Live Here edition. Strap in, America. It's January 6th, 2026, and the weather outside is a full-blown circus, minus the popcorn and with way more emotional damage. New York City. It's snowing. Again. Because of course it is. The city that never sleeps is now the city that never stops shoveling. Temperature so low, your phone battery will wave a little white flag. If you thought your ex was cold, wait till you meet this wind chill. Pro tip: double up on socks, pride, and questionable life choices. Oh look, LA, another cold day in the 60s. Locals are panicking, dogs are wearing sweaters, and the avocado toast is freezing over. If you hear someone say, "It's chilly," remind them this is what the rest of the country calls June, sun still shining, egos still intact. Chicago. The windy city is out here doing its best impression of a freezer aisle. Temps in the 20s, wind that'll slap your face harder than your grandma at Thanksgiving dinner. If the pizza doesn't arrive frozen, it's a miracle. Layer up until you look like a marshmallow with commitment issues. Houston, we have wait, is this even winter? Upper 40s, maybe a sprinkle of rain, and a 100% chance of Texans posting, "It's so cold" memes. Dust off that jacket you bought for your Aspen fantasy. Today's the day to pretend you're in a Hallmark movie. And Miami. Oh, Miami, where winter is just a rumor. Highs in the 70s, and the humidity so thick you could swim through the air. If you're cold, congratulations. You're probably a lizard. The rest of us are just jealous and plotting to crash on your couch. Seattle. Rain. Again. Still. Forever. If you see the sun, it's either a glitch in the matrix or you've been indoors too long. Coffee shops are thriving, umbrellas are a fashion statement, and existential dread is at an all-time high. Welcome to the Pacific Northwest, Denver's forecast. Snow, cold, and the existential realization that you're not as outdoorsy as your Tinder profile claims. Daytime highs in the don't bother going outside. Range. Great day to shovel your driveway, slip, and blame it on the altitude. Atlanta's serving up that not quite winter, not quite spring nonsense. Highs in the 40s, clouds thicker than your aunt's peach cobbler. Just enough rain to ruin your hair, your mood, and your plans to go for a walk. The nation's capital is serving up a fresh plate of meh. Temps in the low 40s, skies grayer than Congress's approval rating, and a vibe so dreary even the Lincoln Memorial looks like it needs a nap. It's not cold enough to cancel work, but just cold enough to ruin your mood and your hair. Don't worry, the cherry blossoms are somewhere plotting their escape. Now let's take a lap around the planet and see who's thriving, who's surviving, and who's just straight up regretting their life choices. It's London, so, surprise? It's raining. Again. Temperatures in the mid-40s, and the only thing wetter than the streets is the British sense of humor. Umbrellas everywhere, but somehow everyone's still soaked. Tea. Required. Optimism not included. Paris is cloudy, moody, and cold. Basically a walking perfume ad, but with more puddles and less romance. Temps in the 40s. The Eiffel Tower is shivering, and so are you. Perfect weather for existential crises and overpriced hot chocolate. Tokyo. Crisp, chilly, and so clear you can see your own poor life decisions reflected in Mount Fuji. Highs in the 40s. It's the kind of cold that makes vending machine coffee taste like salvation. Sydney. It's full summer chaos, down under. Highs near 80, sun so bright it'll bleach your soul, and enough beach bods to make you regret every winter snack. Don't forget sunscreen, or you'll be crispier than last night's chicken parm. Dubai is flexing on the world with 75 degrees and endless sun. If you're cold here, you're either indoors or made entirely of ice cream. The only thing frosty is the AC in the shopping mall. Moscow. Where cold is a personality trait. Highs in the teens, snow everywhere, and the only thing running is your nose. If you can still feel your face, you're not outside. It's a sweat fest in Rio, highs in the upper 80s, and humidity so thick you could cut it with a samba. Bring a towel, a swimsuit, and a strong sense of denial. Beijing. Cold, smoggy, and visibility somewhere between maybe and nope. Highs in the 30s. Fashion tip. Face mask, scarf, existential dread. Cairo is cool and sunny. Highs in the 60s, the pyramid's still standing, and the tourists are still lost. Perfect day for camel selfies and pretending you're in an Indiana Jones reboot. Johannesburg is warm, stormy, and just humid enough to make your hair question its will to live. Highs in the 70s. Afternoon thunder likely. It's like a free car wash, but for your soul. Just remember I bless the rains down in Africa. Vancouver. Rain, rain, and, wait for it, more damn rain. Highs in the low 40s, your hair officially surrendered. Umbrellas are a lifestyle, and vitamin D is a myth. That's your weather blitz, where the forecast is a dumpster fire. My caffeine supply is in a state of emergency, and the only thing more unstable than the weather is my group chat at 2 a.m. Stay wild, stay wrapped in whatever you can find. Bonus points if it's a Snuggie from 2009. And remember, somewhere out there, someone in Florida is wearing flip-flops during a hurricane and calling it just a little breezy. If you need me, I'll be buried under a mountain of blankets, binge-watching disaster movies for survival tips, and questioning every decision that led me to read the weather for a living. Tune in next time, if I haven't been swept away by a rogue snowplow or a Florida man with a leaf blower. And that's the news. You made it. Barely. Go fake confidence, snack aggressively, and remember, if the world melts down, it's never a problem. Just news for next time. Stay chill, stay weird, and don't trust anyone who says it's fine. Crash out, my legends. Catch you in the next episode, if we're all still here.